Imagine walking into a store to shop, only to be treated like you don't belong there. That's exactly what happened to Mia, a young girl excited to pick out some clothes at her favorite store. But things quickly took a shocking turn when the store's manager, Mr. Daniels, confronted her, questioning why she was there. His tone was harsh, his words dismissive, and it wasn't long before he outright demanded she leave, accusing her of causing trouble. Mia tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen until the new owner walked in. What Mr. Daniels didn't realize was that Mia wasn't just a regular customer, she was someone very important. As tensions rise and truths come to light, everything changes in an instant. What will happen next? Stick around to see how this jaw-dropping story unfolds. It's a moment you won't want to miss. Mia froze, her heart racing as the manager's words echoed in her mind. She had been so excited to shop here. It was her favorite store after all. But now all eyes were on her, and not in a good way. Mr. Daniels stood firm, his arms crossed and his voice dripping with authority. "I don't have time for games," he said. "You need to leave before I call security." Mia's voice trembled as she tried to speak. "But you don't understand," she began, but he cut her off. "I don't need to understand anything. You're not supposed to be here," he snapped, motioning toward the door. Just then, the store's glass doors swung open. A tall figure stepped inside, their presence commanding immediate attention. Mia's eyes lit up, but Mr. Daniels looked confused. Little did he know, his world was about to turn upside down. The room seemed to hold its breath as the newcomer approached. It was a woman, sharply dressed and radiating confidence. Her eyes flicked from Mia to Mr. Daniels, quickly assessing the situation. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice calm but commanding. Mr. Daniels straightened up, trying to regain control. "Just handling a disturbance. This girl was causing trouble and refused to leave," he said, gesturing dismissively toward Mia. Mia's face flushed with frustration, but before she could respond, the woman turned to her. "Is that true, Mia?" she asked softly. Mia shook her head, her voice steadier now. "No, I wasn't causing trouble. I was just looking around when he started yelling at me." The woman's expression shifted, her eyes narrowing at Mr. Daniels. "Mia's not just any customer," she said slowly. "She's my daughter." The tension in the room crackled as realization dawned on Mr. Daniels. Mr. Daniels' face turned pale as the woman's words sank in. He stammered, "I, your daughter." But she didn't say anything. The woman held up a hand to stop him. She shouldn't have to. Everyone who walks into this store deserves respect, and that includes Mia. Her tone was firm, but her eyes were sharp as she stared him down. Mia stood silently, watching the scene unfold. A mixture of relief and unease washed over her. She didn't want to cause trouble, but she also couldn't ignore the way she'd been treated. Mr. Daniels fumbled to defend himself. I thought she was loitering. I didn't know she was with you, ma'am." The woman's jaw tightened. "It's not about who she's with. It's about how you treat people, period." The air was thick with tension as the employees and customers looked on, waiting to see what would happen next. Before Mr. Daniels could respond, the store doors opened again, and an older man in a tailored suit walked in. He glanced around, his expression shifting when he saw the scene unfolding. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice commanding attention. The woman turned to him, her face unreadable. "Perfect timing, Mr. Hale. We were just discussing how your manager treats customers." Mr. Hale, the former owner of the store, looked at Mr. Daniels with a mix of confusion and concern. "Daniels, is this true?" Mr. Daniels looked flustered. "It's a misunderstanding. I didn't know she was her daughter. I was just doing my job." "Enough," the woman interrupted, her tone colder now. "It's not just about my daughter. This isn't the first time I've heard complaints about you." The room grew quiet, but then Mr. Hale's eyes widened. "Wait, Mia, is that you?" He turned to the young girl, recognition dawning on his face. Mia blinked, caught off guard. "You know me?" The tension shifted, and all eyes were now on Mr. Hale. A flicker of something unspoken passed between him and the woman, raising even more questions. Mia stared at Mr. Hale, confused. "How do you know me?" she asked cautiously. Mr. Hale glanced at the woman, his face a mix of guilt and hesitation. "I knew your mother, years ago. We used to work together when I first opened this store." Mia's mother had passed away years ago, and hearing this left her stunned. "You knew my mom," she whispered. The woman stepped forward, her expression softening. "You didn't just know her, Mia. He owed her. She helped build this store from the ground up, and when she left, he promised he'd always treat her family like his own. Clearly, that promise didn't mean much." Mr. Daniels stammered, "I didn't know." "You didn't care to know," the woman shot back. "And that's why I'm here. This store isn't yours anymore, Mr. Hale. When you sold it, I made sure it would be a fresh start for everyone. That includes hiring a manager who understands the value of respect." Mr. Hale looked stunned, but Mr. Daniels panicked. "Wait, you can't just fire me." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Actually, I can, and I just did." As security escorted Mr. Daniels out, Mia turned to the woman. "You bought the store for me?" The woman smiled. "For you and everyone like you who deserves to feel welcome here." Mia smiled back, but just as they started to walk away, Mr. Hale muttered under his breath, "You have no idea what you started." Mia and the woman exchanged a glance, realizing this wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. As Mr. Daniels disappeared through the doors, the store felt lighter, almost as if a weight had been lifted. Mia looked around at the employees and customers, who now seemed more relaxed. The woman placed a hand on Mia's shoulder. "This place belongs to people like you now, people who deserve to feel valued." Mia nodded, her confidence returning. She could feel a difference already. The employees smiled at her, and the customers seemed curious, no longer wary. It felt like a new beginning. Later that evening, as Mia and the woman stood outside the store, Mia looked up. "Mom would have loved this," she said softly. The woman smiled. "She's the reason we're here. And together, we'll make sure her legacy stays alive." As they walked away, the store shined brightly behind them, a symbol of change and hope.